Welcome back to Brashonomics, everyone. Heather Moore filling in for Ben Brashen today in a special edition of Heathernomics. And now joining us is John Hugg, attorney at law with Hugg & Associates. And John specializes in estate planning, business succession planning, and elder law. And he's a frequent speaker on these issues and hosts of a lot of informational seminars throughout the Seattle area. And looks like we're kind of talking about the elderly portion today of your business, and taking care of your parents as we grow old is what we're going to discuss. And first of all, welcome, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. And first I have to say that I do like Heathernomics. I actually think maybe you should really talk to Ben about changing that.
Is there a ring to it? Are we on to something here?
I think so. I know Ben probably wouldn't think that, but you know.
Well, he's not here, so he doesn't get a say.
That's right.
Well, you know, you have a lot of aspects and specializations to your business, but I know today we kind of wanted to talk about our parents take care of us as we grow up and age, and there comes a point where the script's kind of flipped. Right.
Well, some of the things I'm going to talk about right now are not really novel, but generally when you think about them, you think about setting up a trust for your children. So you set up something in your will to pass money to your children so that they can go to school and have a good start in life and whatnot. If you're thinking about gifting, you think about making a gift, again, from the parents to the child, maybe for school or to buy a home or something like that. Or another thing that I'm going to talk about briefly is making an intra-family loan from from one party to the other. And again, we generally think about that as, well, the parents are the ones that have the money. They're going to help out the younger generation and get them started and springboard them. But the reality is that you can always just sort of turn that around and go the other way if you've got children who are at least doing moderately well with their own lives and whatnot, maybe in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and I've got plenty of children in their 60s who are helping out their 80 and 90-year-old parents and whatnot. So it can turn the other way when the parents are at a point where they're living off of Social Security and they've got their house, but maybe they have minimal additional funds and investments available. Then the younger generation can take care of the older generation, and there are some different ways to do that in a productive manner. Because
we do talk a lot about estate planning and passing on what you have in terms of your financial assets, property, whatever, to the next generation. But that's not going to be everybody.
Well, that's true, and actually, you can still do that. You can still set it up so you're going to be passing things on, to your own children. So children passing things on to your children.
But you might not have hard assets to maybe take care of yourself as you get older. And is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Well, yeah, that's as you get older. Your income is certainly going to change. You're working and you have a regular income. Once that stops, a lot of people just have Social Security, and some people have a pension, some people have 401ks and IRAs, and they can get distributions from there. But a lot of times that will run out at a certain point. So you're still left with Social Security, and then how do you take care of some of the basic needs? How sometimes it becomes difficult just to pay the taxes on your house. Even if you own your house outright, it may be difficult to pay the taxes or the insurance, or maybe take care of a repair. Maybe you need to spend $15,000 to repair the roof or get a new roof or something of that nature, which can be a big expenditure on a fixed income.
Right.
And so some of these strategies are ways that you can go ahead and help your parents out, and so that they can do those things. And also looking at it from the standpoint of how do you cover the cost of long-term care. A lot of the children are going, okay, well, I know I'm going to be the one that's going to have to help pay for that $6,000 a month.
And it's becoming more expensive.
Yes, and it's becoming more and more expensive. And so there are ways to do that, again, like I said, that will be beneficial.
So let's talk about some of these ways to do that.
So one way is, and probably the simplest thing that you can do, is just making a loan to your parents. So let's say you were going to loan, say, again, $15,000 to be used to put a new roof on the house, and you would just write a check. And what you should do is get a promissory note in return, and you may want to also secure that note against the house, so that at some point you're going to get paid back after mom and dad pass away. And
a lot of people might just write a check, though.
A lot of people will just write a check and they won't think about it, and some people will think about the loan component at a later point in time. And this is where you kind of want to think about this in advance, because you write a check, you don't indicate that it's a loan. It's not clear that you intended to make a loan, But when mom and dad pass away and your siblings think that, they're going to get X, and like, well, I should be paid back the $15,000 first. Well, you never indicated that was a loan to be repaid, and so now you've got a little conflict. So you should be transparent up front, in my opinion, and talk with the whole family so that everybody knows what's going on, and maybe even have it written up where the other family members, the other kids know, off the top. When mom and dad pass away,
I loaned them this.
You're going to get that money back first,
and then
split everything up, and then there's no hurt feelings, and everybody understands the way that is going to function. So, so making the loan is one way to do that, and make sure that money comes back to you at the end. So.
Right, and I think that's a good idea because the less squabbling you can have with your family over money, I think that's a good thing. And for some people, maybe $15,000. It is not a big deal. But for some people, if it is a big deal, but you want to help your parents, I think it's important that you secure it and make sure you are going to get it back.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and that's, again, that's the loan situation. If you don't want it back or you don't need it back, then you can always just make a direct gift.
Is this what we call gifting?
Yes,
All right.
We've talked about gifting
We have
before.
talked about gifting
But again,
before.
usually it's from parents to kids. Okay. But in this case, it's from the kids to the parents. And the money can be used, again, for anything. And if you do it right, there isn't going to be any tax consequence. So each individual can give another individual for 2013 up to $14,000 completely tax-free. So the person making the gift won't pay any tax, and the person receiving the money won't pay any tax either. And if you've got a husband and wife, you can essentially split that gift, which means you could double it. So you could give mom, me and my wife could give, say, her mother up to $28,000 this year, completely tax-free.
Wow.
And then she can use that money, again, to pay for her own needs and help, with long-term care costs or whatever that might be. And then again, if it's a straight gift, then it's a gift, and it should be. Then you shouldn't be expecting that money back. That's the other thing too, is you should know that is a gift, and you shouldn't be squabbling with your siblings at the end saying, well, I made a gift and now I think I should get it back. I mean, if it's really a gift, then you know that it's supposed to be gone.
Yeah, you need to decide up front which way it's going to be. And you mentioned there it's tax-free to give and receive. Is there any tax benefits to gifting?
There can be tax benefits to gifting if you're trying to reduce the size of your estate. So if you have a large estate, if you have a taxable estate and you start making a gifting program, either to kids or to whomever that might be, that's one way to reduce the size of your estate. Yes, without really having any tax consequences.
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there that they maximize their gift to their parents or don't have parents and want to give it to me,
absolutely, and that can happen. Yes, you can just give that money to anybody. So
Heather Moore, you can find my contact information on our Facebook page. Please feel free. So we discussed loans and gifting, and big difference between those two. Important for people to understand if you're straight giving cash away, gifting it, or if you expect to get it back, and make that decision ahead of time. Are there other options to kind of helping your parents, whether it be with assisted living, house expenses, anything like that?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, you can always just pay the bills out of your own pocket, certainly. And I think that would be essentially a form of gifting. So instead of just really doing, making a $14,000 gift all at once, you're just paying the bills and whatnot. Most of that stuff probably won't be tracked, though. So that's one of those things where you might want to be careful, because I've seen a number of situations where you're paying mom and dad's bills, and then there's some squabbling. Somebody wants something from the estate, and it's like, well, I should get first dibs on that because, geez, I did more than you did, that type of thing. So it's one of those things where you should probably keep track of it and make sure that you know kind of what's going on, and have everybody sign on in advance. If that's going to be a loan, then make sure that that's documented and supported. Another way, maybe a little bit more sophisticated way to go about helping your parents would be to use a trust.
Okay.
So again, normally we think about setting up trusts for the kids or grandkids, but in this case, if you're doing fairly well and you can transfer maybe a significant amount of money to your parents, you might want to do that in trust. And
explain what that means.
Yeah.
For everybody listening.
So basically, what you're doing is a trust is sort of like a company. Would be one way to think of it, and you're transferring assets to that sort of entity, if you will, and to be used for the benefit of somebody else. And in this case, so I would transfer, say, $100,000 to a trust for my mother's benefit, and then there would be an independent person usually that's overseeing the use of that money for my mom's benefit in that particular context. So that's kind of the way to think of a trust. You're putting something in sort of a wrapper, essentially, for the benefit of somebody else.
Well, it also seems like a trust might be the option when you're transferring larger sums of money, when you're not just making a small loan or gift or paying the bills.
Yeah, I think so too. And also there's additional cost to setting up a trust if you're doing it correctly and want to make sure you get the most benefit out of it. So yeah, it should be if you're going to transfer larger amounts of money. But it would be one thing that you could do is, again, set up the trust for your parents. In my opinion, you would probably want to set it up in a very specific way so that the parents would still be able to qualify for whatever benefit programs they might be available. And the main ones to think of are Medicaid, and also if a parent is a veteran, there are veterans benefits that they can get, both to address the cost of long-term care. And if they were to receive money outright, then they would probably be disqualified from being able to receive either of those benefits. But if you put it in trust and you've got the trust drafted in a very specific, proper way, your parents could still qualify to get those basic needs taken care of, and then use the money in the trust to supplement that and improve their lives and improve the quality of life for them, for the rest of their days.
Well, that definitely sounds like a win-win. We just have about a minute left. Again, John Hugg, attorney at law with Hugg and Associates. Any other advice for children with aging parents that want to help out, want to give money, want to help bills, want to help them as they kind of go along?
Yeah. Well, again, just following up on the trust aspect too. Again, one of the nice things about the trust is you get a lot of additional protection as well. So if you're concerned that your parents, if they're losing their cognitive abilities and whatnot, that they might, spend that money, if they were to get it outright for something unintended, the trust would be a way to protect against that. Also,
can you still help oversee where the money goes then?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing too is, again, there's quite a bit of concern of elder financial abuse. People just trying to befriend an older individual so that they can get money out of them and whatnot, or to scam them and whatnot. If that money is in trust, that's another way to help protect that money because again, an independent person, not the parent, is the one that's in control of that money. And so if somebody wants to get $10,000 out of an older individual, they won't be able to do that unless
there's going to be other people
is looking into it and saying this is the right thing to do. So those are the various ways to help out your parents.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate all that information. If you want to learn more or have any questions for John, you can actually just go to our Facebook and find his website because, if you can, it's nice to help your parents out after all they do for you growing up. So thanks so much for all that information, John. We got to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Dave Duncan and we're going to shift over into some real estate chat here. You've been listening to Brashonomics. This is Heather Moore, and we will be right back.